So I finally gotten the last piece of the puzzle as far as my Camaro mods go for the time being. That's a Rotofab intake. I got this thing off eBay auction for a song. I mean, fantastic deal. Can't complain about any of that. Now, this was on a crash car, so it's a little less than perfect, and obviously a car that's been crashed ends up on a lot where it's just sand and dust. So this thing's got a bit of dust on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take it apart and then start cleaning everything, and then I'm going to put it all back together nice and neat so that I can get it on my car along with the other mods and my car's not drinking dust and such. So let's go ahead and start taking this thing up. So first things first, let's take off these clamps. I've got a spare MAF sensor on here that came with it. Not a bad thing. Beyond that, looks like I've got whatever this little thing is. I'm pretty sure my car already has one on the stock intake, so it's good that I have a spare, I guess. A spare MAF doesn't hurt either. Don't know that I'll ever need one, but it doesn't hurt to have. And I got that spot on. It's a 7mm. Got some spare parts coming for this stuff. So obviously this is the sound tube delete version. I've ordered the little block off plate to block the sound tube hole that's left on the firewall when you get rid of the sound tube. For whatever reason, I don't have this gasket here. Let's just say my bulldog ate it. And so I don't have this gasket that goes up here and seals this to the hood, so gotta wait on those parts. I've ordered them. They do sell them as spares. So I have that on the way. I will be putting that to good use as soon as it arrives, but let's make sure the intake is clean and ready to receive the new parts. Okay, basic little simple elbow here. Man, this thing's on real tight. Clamps off. This rubber or silicone, whatever joiner, is a little worse for wear, but it'll do for now. Inside's pretty dusty along with the outside, so definitely gonna clean this. Let's make sure I don't lose any of these parts. Man, this is interesting. Alright, got that out of there. Alright, that's that. Wash all this stuff separately. Yeah, all these silicone joiners, they get washed. Clamps I'll just clean up a little bit, dust them off. This I gotta clean inside and out. Don't want that dust getting in my car. As far as this box goes, take this MAF out of here because I don't need it. I'll use the one on my car. Don't want to lose the hardware here. Top housing seems okay, just dusty. Alright. So most of these videos you'll see will be people assembling their Rotofab intake. Mine will start with me taking it apart. I don't know if I'll change out this filter. Gotta see if it's good or not. it's good, I'll keep it. If not, I'll order another one. They're like 50 bucks though, so not a cheap filter by any means, but in all fairness, it is a massive filter. I might get the oiled version. We'll see. Man, alright. I don't see dust inside the filter housing, so most of the dust that's in that intake was probably from this thing sitting around. Get this Mondo filter clamp out of here. I am missing one clamp for the throttle body, but that's okay. I will just use whatever's on my car probably. If not, I'll go out and grab one. Now, this can come out of here. There's a missing screw. Probably because the idiot who owned this didn't ever bother to install it. Whatever. Not the end of the world. I know why he didn't bother to install it too. It's because it's uncomfortable to get at. Be able to clean that up real nice. I'll clean the box in general too, it's all full of filth. Now, I did notice, did it fall off while I was messing with stuff? This had a screw that held on poorly. There it is. This thing. Pretty sure this is one of the things that holds the box on this here, but got deformed in the accident, so I need to bend this and then undo it so I can pop it out. I'll probably have to reuse these knobs off the factory one. So I'm assuming the factory one has them because this attaches to the factory attachment points. There we go. Pop it right back into place. I don't even have to do anything about it really. I do like that these have like a beefy Phillips head on them, so they're not as likely to strip. Oh, these don't sit all the way down, so I guess I'm not going to leave them in for the wash. I'll just blast the holes out with compressed air. Alright, I'm going to take all this stuff, wash it. No sense filming it. You know how to wash stuff, right? Put soap on it. Wipe it down, wet it. Alright, so at this point I've completely cleaned this thing up. I took it over to the kitchen sink and basically washed it like I'm washing dishes. The only thing I did that's really special or different from what you would normally do is I use Chemical Guys pH neutral car wash soap. It's the type you put in a foam cannon. I mainly thought to use that because it doesn't leave any residue behind. Do you really need to be that strict? I don't necessarily think so, but just thought it would be good practice. The inside of this thing is really, really smooth, especially the MAF housing and the intake elbow. Super shockingly smooth plastic, really shiny. So I can definitely see why people say that they install these things and notice an improvement in throttle response, even though they don't have a tune done yet. Like, yeah, for sure. Probably just gives the air such a smooth passageway that maybe just flows through a little bit quicker. But anywho, I washed all of this. Then I kind of just dried the outside. I basically rubbed the insides with my one microfiber, rubbed the outside with another microfiber with soap, rinsed it all off, dried the outside of all of it with a third microfiber, and then I took my air compressor and just blasted out all the insides of this until it was all nice and dry. Now, I'm not going to reassemble this because I've seen that people assemble this in the engine bay kind of as they're installing it. So basically they kind of do the MAF housing and the filter, and they pop that on the car, then they put the couplers and they do the elbow. So I'm just gonna like leave this stuff as is. I will have her bag all the components, right, like the smooth ones that are normally protected by the filter, just so that that stuff doesn't collect any dust while it's sitting around my garage and I don't have to re-clean it. So I'm here in my baby's room, and as you can hear, there is in fact a baby in the background. I've got some parts in from Rotofab. I've got the seal for the firewall, just to seal off the opening of the sound tube. And I've also got the seal that goes on top of the airbox. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that now. Too bad. Just gotta kind of fight it down. the seal on my intake. And it can go right back in this bag. Doesn't collect any dust while it's hanging around my garage. Alright, let's start getting this thing together. If you are not a gentle person with a drill, I highly recommend that you use a screwdriver for this part. Alright, so this thing, MAF housing, goes through the little notch on the gap here. It's the only way that it will fit. Then you'll see that there's these two nubs on this thing. Those two nubs basically are what holds in the fins for the air guide inside, and you want to align them to the bolt hole that's right here, directly clockwise from that nub. So let's get the first screw in through there, but first don't forget your backing plate. So key detail here, this slides on there, but the bolt holes won't line up if you do that. You'll be missing one. You gotta rotate it, right? And when you do that, now all of your bolt holes will line up, and this kind of like locks the thing in place, because now the MAF can't slide through because this is kind of blocking the way. So that's the reason that that's like that. You may want to keep that in mind as you're assembling this. Pop this in, turn it clockwise. Now you're aligned here. Pop this in, turn it counterclockwise. Such a pain in the ass. There we go. Unfortunately for this part of the install, I'd mistakenly left my mic on, so I didn't capture any audio, but basically all I'm doing is that I first got the screws all in by hand, then I went back with the drill and just tightened them all down. You could be fancy with this if you wanted to and use a crisscross pattern as if you were mounting a wheel on a car, for example, but it's really not that critical. You could just go around in a circle or however you see fit. It should fit correctly and seat down, you know, without you having to go through the trouble of doing that. Now, for the next part of this, what you're going to see is me installing the filter inside of that airbox. Now, this uses a worm drive clamp, as do pretty much all the filters on every intake I've ever seen. You go ahead with a 7mm wrench and you tighten that down. They always do have a Phillips head inside of there, but I don't like using that because it tends to strip in my experience. It's so much better to just use a socket wrench. So I recommend that you do it that way, especially once you're trying to tighten it down. You're almost guaranteed to damage it using the Phillips, so I avoid that. Now, in this portion, I'm taking my filter out of the bag where I left it so it wouldn't get dust on the inside. And you're going to see me slide the clamp on the filter and then pop it down on the MAF housing and go ahead and tighten that. Once I finish that, then I just go ahead and install a silicone coupler on the other side using basically the same strategy, right? Just worm drive clamp, 7mm socket wrench, and that's all there really is to this part of putting the intake together. Both these clamps on using a 7mm socket. This kind of fits really nice in here. They've knurled the surface of this MAF housing where it meets with the filter, and these filters always have like a little like lines inside which meets with that knurling and kind of locks it in place really nice, so this can't really pop off, not that there's much room. Then here I've just gone around and kind of tightened this a little bit and then just shifted it manually so that it's evenly spaced from this edge, just so that it sits even, and tighten it down. Now they do say that this next part is best to do with it in the car, so I'm going to go ahead and install this in the car first, and then I'll assemble the rest of it. It's really just one more coupler that goes to the throttle body and inserting here, and this is ready to rock.